Okay, so folks, you know that I love hearing first and foremost how a couple met. And, as I was learning a little bit about Jay and Laura and the blind date thing, the first thing that came to mind is that the two of you met before like Facebook stalking, Instagram, it was seriously like a blind date.
Yes, we were on a blind date, and I was an Atlanta Braves baseball game. And the next morning, Laura told her mother that she was going to marry me. She had moved back home after college. I had moved down there, and the guy that I was working for, he and his wife set us up on the blind date. However, even though there wasn't Facebook stalking back then, Laura managed, we're in a city. She told her mom the next day that she was going to marry me. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, 2 million people at the time. She managed for her path and my path to cross 8 of those 10 days in Atlanta, Georgia. So, there was real stalking back then, not Facebook.
Yeah, you guys, that's a whole nother level there on the stalking thing.
I'm going deeper.
How did you pull that off, Laura?
Come on, you're a woman. You know exactly how she pulled it off.
Just making sure I knew where he was going to be when I was going to be there. That was basically, we had mutual friends. That's who set us up on the blind date anyway. And so I kind of could figure out, so what are you guys doing? Because he was living with the friends that set us up on a blind date. I said, so what are you guys doing tonight? So I knew where he was, and then I knew where
she magically appeared.
Was living, and I could just drive by the house.
And part of the story is she asked me to go away on a weekend with her and her friend up to the mountains, just go hiking and whatnot. Nothing romantic about it, but I told her I couldn't go on that trip unless she knew that I really had deep feelings for her. And she said, well, I have deep feelings for you too. And so we kissed.
This was a conversation we had in a car.
In a car. We kissed, and I got out of her car, and she turned on the radio, and Lionel Richie's Stuck on You started playing in her car. So nice, it was a sign from God. And then I got in my car and turned on the radio, and Rod Stewart's If You Want My Body and You Think I'm Sexy was on. So it was a sign from God that we had to be together.
We've only known what life was going to be like for 33 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, 33 years, congratulations. And, like I've been thinking about you guys over the last couple of weeks as we've been preparing for this interview. And you two have a lot. You've been impacting marriages for a long time.
Yeah, over 20 years we've been doing this marriage thing.
Because we're really old.
That's what people are starting to see. We just hit the 20-year mark, and so people are starting to say, like, we were at a wedding a few weeks ago, and they're like, how many of you have been married over 20 years? You're really old. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I got married young.
Right, that's right. We were children.
Right.
Right. You're not old. You just have a lot of experience.
That's right.
We're just wise.
There you go. Yeah, it's like, how did we have marriage advice when we'd been married 10 years? We started doing these things. We've been married 10 years, and it's like we didn't know nothing back then.
Well, and I love that you said that you had a lot of wisdom, because it's true that the two of you do have a lot of wisdom, and we gain so much more. That jump from 10 years to 30 years.
Yes, we've learned a lot, and we didn't know anything at 10 years.
Right.
We didn't know how much work it was going to be.
At 10 years, we only had
one child. So when that second one came along, she added just, a lot of, she was female. The first one was male.
And was easy going like his mother. The second was female, and it's like me.
Yeah.
And so it was a combination of female hormones and ADD girl. And so she's now out of the house. So now we're empty nesters. And so we're learning even more as empty nesters how to reconnect with each other on a level that we haven't had in a while, because there have been kids in the house. And so our office is in our house. And so, one of the ways we've reconnected is we have an office policy of Naked Tuesday.
We do not. I thought he was going to talk about shutting the door and not going in the office.
No, it's Naked Tuesday.
We're totally the wrong way.
You didn't know where that one was going.
You wanted to go deeper, we're going to go deeper.
But here's the thing. I'm thinking about all of these entrepreneur couples that we know that Naked Tuesday should probably be a thing.
That's right. You don't get any work done, but it's a lot of makes the work week go by quick.
Well, in that case, maybe you should just jump to, to Wednesday.
Well, then you'd have to call it hump day.
No, stop. Sorry.
Don't apologize. This is why I wanted to talk with you guys, because I just knew that the humor was going to come out, and so that in and of itself is fabulous. But it's that humor. Like, I love that you guys call yourselves edutainers, marriage edutainers, because these topics that we talk about in the marriage world, sometimes they get just a little serious.
Right. And it's, that is, we have people tell us all the time, wow, it's like you're a fly in our house. You know exactly what we're going through. And we're like, we're not any different than anybody else. We go through the same things everybody goes through. We've been through the same things. But if you can't laugh at some of them, life's just going to suck you dry. And, you got to be able to just laugh at each other and laugh at, as we are getting older, we are laughing a lot more at each other. we have a bottom drawer over by our telephone, which we don't have anymore. We did upgrade to no telephone.
Okay.
But the bottom drawer has all the telephone books in it, but we weren't sure what was in there.
I said, what's in the drawer? She's like, I haven't looked in there in years. It's at the bottom of that. We'd have to lean down too far.
Why don't you know what's in there? I said, because I'd have to bend over to pull the drawer out and look, and I just don't really need to know. I get lightheaded if I bend over.
One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Martin Luther, the reformer. And he said, I judge the depth of a man's faith by his ability to laugh. I think, yes, there are a lot of tough situations. There's a lot of tough times in marriage. We go through loss and we go through hardships. But to look back and find the humor, or to find the gentle poke at our frailty and be able to bring that out, I think it softens people's hearts and it helps them learn better, simply because, okay, I've laughed a little bit, the endorphins are flowing, and then they can take. And what's interesting is our humor is different. She's a lot drier and more sarcastic, and so we can usually get almost everybody in the crowd because I'm just a big goofball.
Yes, my spiritual gift is sarcasm, and I use it well.
You use it well. Well, you know what? Congratulations, because we all have to use our gifts well.
That's right.
And so if sarcasm is yours, by all means, be excellent.
Exactly. I work.
So I wanna go into this topic because sex is one of those things, one of those areas in marriage that sometimes people have a little difficulty even laughing about or even talking about.
Right.
And the two of you have really brought a level of transparency to this and how it really, with marriage and this whole idea of holy sex and the purpose of marriage. And so what do you feel like most people actually say the purpose of marriage is?
We get a lot of different answers. A lot of it is, companionship, just to have a companion, procreation. Then you get the spiritual answers, well, it's to be like Jesus. And then there's, always,
I found my sugar daddy.
Have a sugar daddy or a mommy dearest, but as over the years, we've looked at the purpose of marriage and why are we doing this? Why are we, a lot of people say, why do I want to put especially this younger generation, why do I want to put myself through something? We can just live together. And then when it gets too hard, let's just, we can be done. We can be gone.
But we're Christ followers. And so it came to us that if Jesus actually gave us the purpose of marriage, that wouldn't that be the place to start? Wouldn't that be the place to go, okay, this is the foundation of it all? And in Mark chapter 10, verses 6-8, he actually does give us the purpose of marriage. And it's where he said, he's talking to Jewish people, and he said, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. He closes, that's Old Testament. He closes quotes on the Old Testament, and then he says these words, therefore they are no longer two, but one. And you hear a lot of marriage people talking about oneness. But if you look that word up in the dictionary, it means a strong feeling of closeness. But if you look up the word one, it's acting as one. One body, one entity, one unit.
Right.
And so we really press that it's about being one. It's about really operating in life as not Jay and Laura, but as Jorah, is that combination of that uniquely makes us.
And if you look at that verse, if you're a Bible scholar, which neither one, I'm not, he did major in Bible, but I'm not a Bible scholar, but there is that they're no longer two, but one can actually be translated as one flesh, one body, one person. And so when you apply that to marriage and think we all get the one flesh part because that's the fun part of marriage. But operating as a team, as that one unit, one entity, one person is what makes marriage so hard, is that to do that when you're two individuals with two different opinions who brought up two different ways, that really makes.
And in our culture that says it's all about me. Our culture from the time that we're born is like, it's all about you. You need to get a good education so you can get a good job so you can find the woman of your dreams, because it's all about me. instead of finding the woman who you want to make her dreams come true. That's a big difference. I'm trying,
Still
honey.
working on
I was
it.
gonna say, how's that going?
Some days. Once a month I make her dreams come true. I take her shopping.
I was gonna say, I wasn't going there.
Yeah. I was thinking something else, but we can be shopping.
We won't go in that direction now, will we?
And then I was gonna say, well, I hope it's more than once a day or once a month. So yeah,
Shopping once a month.
Yeah.
shopping once a month, making her dreams come true more than once a month.
Yes.
But now I can shop online. He doesn't have to take me anywhere.
So much easier. This technology thing from the 33 years ago when you guys first met.
That's right.
Much
That's right.
easier. But it's interesting how you really dig into those two words and oneness versus one, and then really looking at that in this me society.
Right.
Right. And so what are some ways that a couple can become one?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to lose yourself. You can't, and again, we're not talking about losing any of who you are.
As a person.
A great illustration, if we were on top of it, we would have had it, is if you had a glass of water over here that you had red food coloring in, and a glass of water over here that you had blue food coloring in, and you have an empty glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take those and pour them into the glass. They're going to make purple, but this is the marriage. But you can't lose any of Jay and any of Laura, or you don't have the marriage. And so you really have to.
What we mean about lose yourself is to lose that selfishness, that self-centeredness. Be adult enough to realize that we all are that way. We all have to battle that selfishness and that self-centeredness. But when you can lose that for the sake of the marriage grows. When I think of Laura before I think of myself, the marriage grows. When I meet her needs before I meet my own, that's losing yourself for the sake of the marriage.
And vice versa. And so it really is, it's not losing the person that God created you to be, but it's losing the selfish tendencies that we all have because we're human. And that has to really be the first action that you take to have this holy sex thing.
I think also to change your by changing your verbiage just a little bit, instead of saying I, me, and my, say we, us, and our. It's not my kids, it's our kids. It's not my job to do, it's our job to do. One of the best illustrations we have of this, we have good friends. He's a recovering alcoholic, narcoholic. Was a self-medicating doctor. He was very, very messed up. But his wife to this day says, we have an addiction problem. So even though she never struggled with addiction in her life, she recognizes that when she stood at the altar, his problems became her problems. And that really, again, that's a very mature mindset. It takes a long time to get there. But when you can get there and you.
Well, and the other marriage that we've seen that fleshed out really well is my sister and brother-in-law, who are in a blended family. And he had 2 kids when they came into the marriage, and she had 1, and now they have 1 together. But you never hear them say, those are your kids, these are my kids, you need to go discipline your kids. It's always
our kids. Us,
we, our. And they have really, and their kids have benefited from that as well, realizing that they are a family. They're not, those are Ray's not my dad, or Sadie's not my mom. And that really is another way to act as that one flesh, one body, one person.
And we realize that there are so many blended families out there, and this idea of becoming one is even more difficult in a blended family because you do have others pulling you away. And we recognize that that's a challenge, but living one day at a time. Hey, today we did a great job of being us. Tomorrow we may not. Who knows?
That does, blended, not blended, whatever it is, it really is. I think so many people get into this idea of we have to look at marriage 50 years down the road, and yes, definitely be envisioning what your marriage is going to look like, but the success comes in what happens today.
Right. Right.
What happens when, I know you guys are getting ready to go on vacation and you're trying to get all the last minute stuff going on, and you're like, okay, who's doing what? And this idea, using all of the plural words, we, us, and our. Yeah. That's, if those of you that are watching, if you take nothing else away from this interview, just changing your language from I, me, and mine to we, us, and our, that's going to change the entire dynamic in your marriage.
Yep.
And it's even interesting, when we first started trying to practice this and we started listening to other people, and even in a marriage that it's not a blended family, there's always this, well, my daughter did this, or my son did, and we always correct each other, go, oh, really? You have that daughter all by yourself? I thought I helped, so it's just that, no, our kids did this, or our daughter, or we have this problem. We have this, and it really just cements in your mind. It's like you have to speak it in order to flesh it out. You have to really begin to speak those words, and then you kind of go, oh, we really are a team, and we really are.
Well, and the burden becomes lighter when you realize you're not having to bear it alone. There was a time in our marriage where Laura got us into some serious credit card debt.
I like to shop.
She hid it from me, but I could say it was all her, but no, we had a money issue because we weren't talking about money, we weren't budgeting about money, we didn't communicate about money, and as a result, this happened. And so, when you realize that you're in this together, and when you operate together, you have so much more strength, you have so much more ability to stand firm on your convictions as a couple. It means a lot.
And then when life happens, you got a partner here, and marriage isn't the destination. Marriage is the journey. Like you said, it's those successes one day at a time. And it's because it is a journey, and today's going to look different than tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to look different than the next day, and we're going to have little successes.
Because day after tomorrow we're on vacation.
I know, that's right.
So the day after tomorrow is going to look really different. Really different. But that's something that I think a lot of couples have gotten away from. The title of this was, holy sex, the purpose of marriage. And a lot of couples, just like you said, look at marriage as, the purpose is procreation.
Right.
But really looking at this is we're on a team.
Right.
Right. When we set our I do's, it's like I tell all my clients, I'm like, it's Team DiLorenzo, it's Team LaFoon. I'm not playing against Tony.
Right.
We have our moments, like just pure transparency here. We do have our moments where we try and go there. But realizing at the end of the day that if we're going to have this holy, unified marriage, that's not going to happen so well if I keep looking at him as the opposition.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and especially, and you take this into every room of the house. I mean, and especially in the bedroom. If I'm thinking of Laura first in the bedroom and she's thinking of me first in the bedroom, well, then, that is making love like God intended it to be. And it's just this amazing gift that, we have an opportunity to partake in. So it really is holy.
Well, and it's that idea of putting each other first. I've heard both of you say this a few times during the interview that when you lose yourself, you're not like, losing your identity. You're losing Laura, you said you're losing your selfish desires. And Jay, you've talked about putting Laura first. And so it's this combination of these different skill sets that really, I agree with Jay, they change that entire dynamic in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And the easiest way, at least for us to remember it, is the losing yourself is losing that selfishness, and then loving your spouse, that's putting your spouse above his needs above mine. And then the last action in order to have this holy sex is to lift the marriage. And this is where it gets really hard, I think, for a lot of people who especially have children of any age, is that your marriage has to be your number one priority next to your relationship with Jesus. It's not your, it does, we have Jay has to tell them about the golf pro, Joe.
Sure. I play a lot of golf and was speaking at a youth golf camp, and the pro was giving not only a demonstration, but his testimony. He said, here are my priorities. He said, my relationship with God, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, my ministry, my job. And when he said it that way, a light bulb went off in my head, because I think most Christians would say my relationship with God, my family, my ministry, my job, lumping
wife and kids,
or husband and kids in together as one. There's nowhere in Scripture that's upheld. This was the only relationship you said for life. We're here for life. And so when he said that, it just popped a big light bulb in my head that, yes, I've got, our job as parents is to get the kids to move out of the house. And so many times when you talk about lifting the marriage, typically one of the spouses struggles with putting career in front of the marriage, and typically one of the spouses struggles with putting the kids in front of the marriage. I'm not going to say which one because it varies from household to household, but those things can right away become the number one priority, and it's a downhill slide.
Especially in a day and age when our kids have so many opportunities to do so many different activities, whether it's, band or drama or sports, and you find your life being consumed by your children's activities. And our son didn't care because he didn't want us at every sporting activity. He didn't want us watching him do anything. And our daughter cared a little bit more, but we could manage her schedule around our schedule, and it didn't really interfere. Realized we had instilled this in her. We always got away for our anniversary every year, and it's in early December. Whether it was just an overnight or whatever, we had just told our kids this is what we're going to do. And our daughter's senior year in high school, we decided we weren't going to go because we'd been in a habit of going away for 2 or 3 days, and it's senior year, we don't want to miss anything, blah 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 blah, so we weren't going to go. And it was in the middle of the week, and she realized it was our anniversary, and we were still home, and she sat us down and said, you two say you're the marriage experts, and you didn't do what you say you're going to do. And so ever since, and we're like, okay, we get the idea. We communicated that marriage is a priority, and she caught it, and that's good.
So the idea that you intentionally, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, you're making your marriage number one priority, that you are lifting the marriage to that level of importance it really deserves. Because, and you know this, and your listeners probably know this, but it's always nice to be reminded, study after study shows that if this relationship is where it's supposed to be, kids, work, church, hobbies, everything else tends to fall into place, and it tends to be a real easy place to go. But when this is out of whack, everything else is out of whack as well.
I agree. Everyone I think knows that, but I'm so glad you repeated it, because what I also took away from what you were just saying there is the importance of demonstrating these 3 things: losing yourself, putting each other first, lifting up the marriage. Because what happens when that is functioning is that your kids, your community, everyone else catches it. I love that your daughter sat you down and said, basically, practice what you preach.
Right.
She ripped us a new one, what she did.
Right? Because the lasting ripple effects of that are huge. And that's really, as we're both in the marriage world and wanting to see marriages healthy and whole and holy, to see that intentionality is not going to just impact you two as you're going through different seasons now, enjoying the empty nester, but you've created an environment where your kids have caught this.
Right.
The kids are making those decisions or telling you to make the right decision, as the case may be. So that's a gift that I think a lot of times we lose sight of when we are putting things like career first or kids first. We're like, what are they catching?
Right. Yep.
Oh my gosh, you two, I've loved this time together. And, Jay, you mentioned the one quote early in the show, but I do like to ask, is there one phrase, one mantra, something that the two of you live by that sums up how you do marriage, or just a piece of advice for our audience?
Well, yes, but we can't say it.
Be appropriate.
We can't say it.
I think the laughing, we try and remind ourselves a couple things, that we are each other's biggest fan. When those times get tough and things get hard, I would say, I am your biggest fan. You are my biggest fan. And then just remembering to laugh. That's why our ministry is called Celebrate Your Marriage, because that's what we want to encourage people to do, is to celebrate what God's brought together.
I think another one of our favorite sayings, because we know it's so true, was by Ruth Bell Graham, Billy Graham's wife. She said, a good marriage is made up of 2 great forgivers. And I think, again, as Christ followers, knowing what Christ has forgiven in me, I need to be ready at an instant to forgive her for, the toothpaste being whatever, or this or that or the other.
Explodes from the middle.
Like an insane person would do. But yeah, just 2 great, be a great forgiver, and your marriage will do well.
Awesome. Can 2 of you, just as we're closing, just tell folks where to find you if they want to learn more, if they want to get some laughs themselves and just dig into everything that you have?
Our website is jayandlaura.com. It's pretty easy to remember. JAYANDLAURA.com.
Put that to the Mickey Mouse theme for those of you that are old enough, and you'll remember it forever.
Okay, now that's totally playing in my head. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it.
Okay. But yeah, everything is on our website, all of our events, where we're going to be, the calendar, the store, all of that.
We take our ultimate date night all over the country, so keep track on our website. We might be coming near you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love it. And guys, if you go to their website for sure, I'll put it in the link in the comments, but they go all over, and they bring this same, well, it's actually like this on steroids, the amount of laughter and connection and just that time that you get to share with your spouse. That's why they call it the ultimate date night. So it's not like that's just, something they made up. It's real.
We will promise you this. It's the most fun you'll have with your spouse in public.
In public. Okay. And with your clothes on.
Yeah.
And with your clothes on.
Clothes on, because you are in public.
Yes. Well, as we close today's Growing Deeper, you don't miss out on your opportunity to be part of the Position of the Month Club. You can check out what's going on there at positionofthemonthclub.com. And join me next week as I have Ryan and Laura Dobson of Rebel Parenting joining me on Going Deeper. But till then, go deeper with your spouse. Spend time going over these 3 things that Jay and Laura really poured into us. Lose your selfishness. Love one another, put each other first, and lift up your marriage. Jay and Laura, thank you so much for the time. Have an awesome vacation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.